What's going on YouTube? So when you think of an entry-level Mercedes sedan, probably the first thing you think of is the C-Class. However, there exists a smaller and more affordable CLA, which has sexy coupe-like styling and a starting price of only $43,000. So, is this the best combination of desirability and affordability in the Mercedes lineup? Well, let's go ahead and find out with this updated 2024 model. Alright, so let's kick things off here under the hood for our spec dump. Now with this refreshed 2024 CLA, we are getting some updates under the hood. This is the CLA 250, so this is going to be a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, but it now has EQ Boost mild hybrid added to it. Total system output is going to be 221 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, same as last year, but more low-end torque, Mercedes says.
You have an 8-speed DCT as your transmission. As far as the drivetrain, you have front-wheel drive as standard, optional 4MATIC all-wheel drive, and the fuel economy is coming in at 28 miles a gallon combined with all-wheel drive.
Now, of course, later on in this review, we're going to take this out for a spin and show you the performance of this model. We're going to get things like our sound level reading so that we can compare this to its rivals on carconfections.com. But first, let's go ahead and close up the hood and take a look at all that Mercedes has updated with the exterior. So for this refresh, Mercedes did do some work to the front end of this CLA, but thankfully they didn't do anything too dramatic because this is honestly one of the nicest looking Mercedes models. I really love the way this looks. It's very sleek up here in the front, and we've got that signature Mercedes grille. Again, like I said, they revised the shape a little bit, but you'll notice you do have the AMG line kind of stars that go through the center section. You have the dark accents on this model because we do also have the AMG Night package, and you'll see that repeated throughout the rest of the exterior. Now, in terms of our lighting, this has also been updated for 2024. This is probably what you notice the most when you're looking at this. Really cool look to this, as a matter of fact. We have this interesting daytime running light and turn signal indicator, which bends around and then has little separated sections. Nice look to this overall. These are going to be standard projector LED headlights on all models, and you get adaptive abilities if you choose the top-end Pinnacle. Now, as we move around to the back, this is where you can really see a lot of influence from its big brother, the CLS, which is actually on its way out of the Mercedes lineup, but you still keep the same design here in this compact package for the CLA.
And I mean, it looks really, really good, and there are a handful of updates for the 2024 model, namely the taillights. So Drew's going to go ahead and hop inside because here at Car Confections, we like to test out all the elements and see if they're all LED. So we do have an LED brake light portion, LED reverse light, and LED amber turn signal indicator. This is an updated taillight design for the refresh. I really love the way this looks. Honestly, I think this looks a lot more premium than what you get on a lot of the more expensive Mercedes products. I like the overall shape of it a lot. Now, as we head down to this lower area, the diffuser has also been massaged for 2024 to give it a slightly different look. Here in the 250 model, we do have faux exposed exhaust outlets here on the left and right side in a nice trapezoidal finish. The actual exhaust comes out down below, however. And as far as some of the other models, the AMGs, of course, will have more exposed exhaust outlets.
Now, moving on to the wheels, you do have a wide variety of selections on board. This AMG Night Edition model, we do have the 18-inch alloy wheels. You can upsize these to 19s if you prefer something a little larger. And as we move up here to the mirrors, these are also going to have the black mirror caps. And surprisingly, even though this is one of Mercedes' most affordable models, the mirrors will come fully loaded on all trims. So that means you have blind spot monitoring, auto dimming, power folding, and heating.
Now, one of my favorite angles for the CLA is here at the side because you can really see that mini CLS design brought down to this model. It's very swoopy, coupe-like. I love the way it looks here in person. Very sporty overall. Now, as far as the overall vehicle length, it's about 184 inches long. And I do also want to talk about your safety systems as well. Mercedes is including 2 out of your 4 active safety features as standard equipment. Now, of course, in typical Mercedes fashion, you can option on the rest of those safety systems in the driver's assistance package. Well, guys, that's going to be it for the refreshed exterior design. There's quite a few changes on the inside, so let's check that out. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, so now let's go ahead and see what's new on the inside. But first, we'll take a look at the key fob. This is the typical Mercedes key fob. You do have metal trim on the outside edges. It is a standard smart entry system as well on all versions of the CLA. And then to get inside, just reach behind the handle, and that is going to unlock the door. And I will point out, this is one of the unique elements about this CLA that gives it that coupe-like appearance. You've got the frameless glass doors here. All right, now taking a look inside the interior, we do have some upgrades like I was mentioning, but first of all, I am going to start off by talking about your interior seating and material selections. So in terms of the 250, you are going to have standard MB Tex, that is a synthetic leather. And on this model as well, we do also have a suede insert running through the center section. This is a very cool sport seat. So as you can see, it's actually all one piece here. You're not going to be able to adjust the headrest, of course, but you do also have 8 ways of standard power adjustment on all models, located over here on the door trim, as well as standard memory seats. And we have the optional heating for $500. But let's go ahead and climb inside. And now that we're fully inside the model, let's talk about overall material quality. So starting out with our door trim, that same kind of suede material through the center of the seat will be up here on the door trim with a color contrast stitching detail. The top part of the door trim is actually finished in a leatherette with stitching. And as we move to the upper dash, again, you're going to find a leatherette material with the stitching detail. We do have some nice choices in terms of your trim pieces. This is a brushed aluminum. It is a real aluminum. You can also get real wood if you prefer. You have leatherette through the center section. You have your real metal vents through the middle. And then down here on your lower areas, these are going to be finished basically completely in a piano black, and it is hard touch along the side. But let's go ahead and fire it up with the push button start. Now jumping right into the individual features you're going to find inside of the cabin, let's start with our gauge cluster. Now you notice this is a full digital gauge cluster. It's 10.25 inches, and new for 2024, this is now standard on every single trim level. Previously you had like the availability on the very base model getting a very small display. That is gone. You're going to get the dual display on every single trim. You can also option on a head-up display. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, you'll notice this is one of the new things for 2024. We've got that latest Mercedes design, and this, guys, is a very, very nice steering wheel. It's exactly the same as it is in their high-end products. You have a cool design with the split openings and a very thick rim, paddle shifters on the steering wheel, and the wheel itself is going to be manual tilt and telescoping with optional steering wheel heating. All right, so let's get into interior storage. Obviously, this is a relatively small vehicle, so you're probably not expecting a lot of interior storage, and we'll start out underneath our center console. Before I open it up, though, I will point out it is pretty narrow, so it might be one of those airplane situations if you want to elbow your passenger out of the way. But once we open it up here, let's take a look at our donuts, because this is Car Confections after all, so we like to see how many donuts fit inside the center console, and the answer today is 6. That's honestly not too bad given how narrow this is, and this is being a relatively small vehicle. You also have your 2 USB ports inside of that. Right here, you're going to notice you have a new storage area for 2024 because our touchpad infotainment controller has been eliminated this year. You've got your 2 cup holders. Both of these have adjustable sizes. And then up in the very front, we have a newly standard wireless phone charging pad on every single trim level. Now, of course, this is a Mercedes after all, so our shifter is going to be up here on the column. Just press down for drive. Again, you've got those paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Press up for reverse. When we go into reverse, you're going to see our standard backup camera. This version is going to have active trajectory. We also have front and rear parking sensors, but if you want a 360 camera, you'll have to choose the very top end Pinnacle trim of this model. Now let's kind of return back to this area and specifically to our volume knob so we can talk about the audio system. We have the upgraded Burmester sound system. It's going to have 12 speakers, and let's go ahead and give it a sample right now. Okay, I'm actually quite surprised by this. Not that I'm surprised that Burmester makes a good sounding sound system, but that this sounds exactly the same as some of the high-end Mercedes products, but just kind of brought into this smaller cabin. It's really popping in here. All right, so let's zero in over on the climate controls. This is a dual zone climate control setup. Unlike some of the newest Mercedes models, we retain our nice physical controls. So you've got the metal toggles to adjust your temperature. You can get to additional climate menus through that button right there. And just like with previous models, when you adjust the climate up and down, it is going to illuminate the ambient lighting differently inside of the vents themselves. You do, of course, have lots of ambient lighting inside of this model in general, including all along this panel and down the center console. All right. Taking a look at our display, like I mentioned, this is part of the dual screen Mercedes setup. It's also going to be 10 1/4, just like your gauge cluster, and it has the MBUX system. Now, in terms of features you're going to care about that's on board, you have wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay abilities. You are going to have a built-in navigation system as well. That's what that looks like. Just be aware, once again, you will be controlling this exclusively via touch for 2024. Now, as we rise above here, we have an auto-dimming mirror with our 3 HomeLink universal remotes. And then lastly, we have a quite premium feature. We have a standard panoramic sunroof. Now, yes, that is slightly smaller than a traditional panoramic sunroof because you don't want to cut down on the rear headroom too much, but it does actually open up as well.
Well, guys, let's go ahead and talk about the CLA's rear seat. I have to say, I feel like I grew about 6 or 7 inches reviewing this car as compared to the average vehicle. I finally am getting my 6-foot tall height dream sitting back here because my head is actually scraping the ceiling and I'm pretty much touching the seat back when it comes to legroom. Now, you probably didn't expect this to be a spacious rear seat. Of course, the styling is really the main thing with this vehicle. However, if you're not hauling around super big people all the time, you're probably going to be totally fine. As far as the legroom is concerned, 33.9 inches of legroom, about 35.7 inches of headroom. So yes, that's going to be tight for people who are taller than 5'9", that is for sure. Now, I did go ahead and bring my ruler so I can get the official knee measure. We're sitting at 4.5 inches with the seat adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8". My feet can also slide just a little bit up underneath of the seat. The seats themselves are a little bit on the firm side as well. As far as other features you're going to have, we do have standard rear vents, which is nice. We're also going to have a USB port for charging devices down below that. One thing I really like about the rear is that you have the back view of the seat, and it looks very sporty and cool. As far as the door trim is concerned, it's actually going to be made of very nice materials. We have leatherette across the entire top, and then we have Alcantara finishing the rest of it, and then we have a little bit of bottle storage down in front of that. Now, coming up to the trunk, I have a party trick to show you guys. You'll notice there's no button just sitting around, and actually how you open the trunk is you just push in the Mercedes emblem, and that's going to go ahead and pop it open. And as far as the trunk area is concerned, you're going to be impressed with this, 11.6 cubic feet of cargo capacity. So even though we have that sleek coupe-like design, you actually have a really long trunk. It's only about 1 cubic foot less than the C-Class for reference, and the seats do fold 40-20-40 split folding, so you have quite a bit of functionality back here. I do want to go ahead and give you the measure here from the rear seat backs to the end of the cargo area. We're sitting at 41 inches of length, which is actually a very good length for a sedan. Now I've got my tape measure stuck in there. But as far as the overall height, this is really where you're going to sacrifice some of the space, as there's not a lot of height in this trunk. Now, a few other things I do want to talk about here. this is very dangerous, guys. We've hit our head on this about 3 or 4 times today. Because you have that coupe-like design, it's very easy to just kind of lean in and smash your head on this. So do watch out. Mercedes has that very sharp, pointy thing ready to hit your head. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the refreshed Mercedes CLA. Of course, there are some updates to talk about in this section, and we can't wait to tell you all of those things. We'll also be talking about a lot of other things, as you can see on the screen right now, including getting our sound level reading, which is something we do in all of our Car Confections reviews. But first, let's go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
All right, 60.
Very nice.
This is a quick little guy for sure. So let's recap a little bit from what we discussed in the spec dump. This is the CLA 250, so this is the basic powertrain choice. Even so, this is a very spiffy model.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine making 221 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. And because of that torque, it really has a nice punch off of the line, and it gets up to speed pretty quickly.
0 to 60 is 6.3 seconds in the base model. Yeah, that's pretty dang quick. Now,
see what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, Mercedes did say that for the 2024 model year, despite the power figures being the same, since you have a new EQ boost system, one of the things that helps with is giving you better low-end torque, and I think I can feel that, like I said, when you get off the line.
So yeah, this powertrain is pretty impressive. However, for those of you who are really power hungry, you can also get several different AMG models. There's the AMG 35 model that's going to have 302 horsepower. There's also an AMG 45S, and that's going to have 416 horsepower and a 0 to 60 of 4 seconds. So there are options for you if you want something more powerful than this. However, I'd say Mercedes sells like 90% of them in CLA 250 form, just because the space powertrain is very, very competent, especially for a small vehicle like this.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about it is that all 3 of those configurations, all the way up to the top power, is still coming from a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Now, as I come to a stop here, pay attention to the tachometer. So you notice a good deal before we completely came to a stop, the engine went ahead and turned off. That is one of the other things that's nice about the EQ Boost mild hybrid. So what that's going to do essentially is power an advanced auto start stop system, allowing the engine to turn off as you come to a stop, as well as when you're under low loads, like in a coasting kind of situation. And that's going to be able to help improve fuel economy in the long run. Now let's talk a little bit about the transmission. I accelerated kind of casually up to speed there, and then I punched the accelerator to check how quickly we could get our downshifts, and it passed all of those tests with flying colors. This is an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, and it is a willing partner for this powertrain. Again, this is a kind of a sportier model in the Mercedes lineup, which is why they did give it that dual-clutch. Is going to give you the fastest shifts.
And now that we're just kind of cruising down the road, I do want to talk about your ride quality for the CLA. Like Drew was mentioning just a second ago, this is one of the sportier offerings in the Mercedes lineup, and therefore it is going to have a little bit of a sportier ride quality. When you hit a bump, you're definitely going to feel some intrusion into the cabin. These seats are definitely what I would call on the firmer side for a lot of you guys. They are highly adjustable though, so you might be able to get your exact seating position right, but I will say this is not going to be like a S-Class riding vehicle, and I think that's what Mercedes designed this to be, is to have that sportier flair. So do keep that in mind when you buy this. You can also get optional adaptive dampers, which I would recommend getting for that dual character, more so than just having just the sporty nature.
Right, the sport suspension is what they call the standard suspension. And earlier when I was talking about the mild hybrid system, I didn't really get into the specifics of how that feels, it is extremely smooth. Just like with all the Mercedes models, they've done a great job of making it where it cycles on and off without you really noticing much at all.
That's really quick. All right, and now we're up to 55 miles an hour, so let's go ahead and get our sound level reading. We have our fan speed on 1. .6 decibels is our official Car Confections sound level reading, going 55 miles per hour. And if you're curious as to how that compares to some of the competition, well, you don't have to be curious. You can actually know, because here at Car Confections we do it in all of our reviews, and we also have posted all of our sound level readings on our website, carconfections.com, so I can go and see how it compares. And as far as how that compares, that does put it in pretty much the middle of the pack when it comes to sound level readings for luxury subcompact vehicles.
I will say that the shifts, now that I just put it into the sport mode, actually are much more aggressive. When you have it in that mode, they're even faster and have that nice snappy feel to them when they're executed. Now, we don't have any good curvy roads along our route today, unfortunately, but like I mentioned earlier, this is a vehicle that has some sport intentions, and you can tell that as soon as you're driving down the road, any type of road, because this is a very agile feeling vehicle. You also see that the steering is nice and responsive, very tight feeling steering, and overall body roll is well controlled, even in the standard 250 model, and it is only going to get more aggressive when you go to a 35 or 45 AMG.
Now, I do also want to talk about your fuel economy. Now, of course, the mild hybrid fuel economy, or the mild hybrid system, helps with your fuel economy. And if you choose front-wheel drive with the 250 model, you're sitting at 30 miles a gallon combined. If you choose 4MATIC all-wheel drive, you will be sitting at 28 mpg combined, which is pretty good fuel economy for something in this size category. And I do, of course, want to point out that front-wheel drive is your standard option. You do have optional 4MATIC all-wheel drive, unless you choose the AMG models where some of that is standard equipment. And Drew, I think it's time for us to talk about our slam dunk and airball, our favorite element, our least favorite element. Drew, do you want to kick us off with the slam dunk?
Yeah, so the slam dunk today has got to be the design. This was already a good-looking vehicle. I think what they've done for 2024 with the small enhancements to the grille and the headlights have made it even more good looking. And of course, this is one of their more affordable models, but you still have one of the best looking designs, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as far as our airball is concerned, we like a lot about it. However, Drew said one of the more affordable models, but that doesn't mean much when we're talking about a Mercedes. The airball has got to be the price. Now, yes, you can get one for as little as $43,000. However, this model does have quite a lot of options. As tested today, we're sitting about $55,000, and we are in the standard CLA 250 powertrain setup, so it's going to be quite a bit pricier than a lot of its main rivals, like the Audi A3 and the BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe. You will be paying a price premium for the CLA. And lastly, when it comes to your warranty, you're going to be looking at a 4-year, 50,000-mile basic and powertrain warranty. Mercedes does not do complimentary maintenance, unlike BMW. Now, you heard us say at the intro, this model can be had for just $43,000, which certainly is a very attractive price point, but that is your starting point. That's for a 250 front-wheel drive with no options. Now, of course, they do also offer quite a few AMG models if you want additional performance. Those are going to cost more money. And as far as how this model is equipped today, we have the 250 4MATIC, so we have all-wheel drive. We also have quite a few of those options. All told, today we're sitting at $54,580 as tested. Now, if you're looking to buy a Mercedes CLA or any new vehicle, we would recommend you go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. On there, we have a tool that will connect you with local dealers in your area to get you the best price on your new vehicle. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description. And guys, that's going to be where we leave off on this in-depth review of the refreshed 2024 Mercedes-Benz CLA. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By joining in on this Car Confections family, not only are you going to help us to make more car reviews on this channel, you're also going to get a ton of really cool car content that I promise you won't want to miss out on. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.